Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Hi, I'm Michael Rager, your business guide, and welcome here to Biz Talk with Michael Rager here on NowMedia TV. I'm telling you, it's been just another exciting week in business and what's going on with small business owners around the world. I want to talk to you a little bit today about relationships and the relationships that you should have as a small business owner. When we look at it, the first one we got to have is a legal relationship. We got to have a lawyer. All right, if we don't have a lawyer that really understands us and what our business is trying to do, there's no way we can have somebody that can help us do the right things we got to do, the right way to stay compliant if there's compliance involved in our business. It's just one of the people we have to have a good relationship. The second one is, we talked about it a lot, and we talked about it the last few weeks, is a CPA. We need somebody that's looking at our tax structure of what we're doing and helping us understand how we report the money that's coming in and going out, and what ends up and how much we pay in taxes. And that's the thing, is we don't want to pay more than we need to, but we actually need to pay some, because of that next relationship we need is our banker. You notice I didn't say bank, I said banker, because here's what's going to happen is, as a business owner, you need to get to know your banker, and you need to get to know somebody that really understands your business, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, not just this year, but next year, the year after, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years out. You need somebody that understands you and what you're trying to do. And the last thing is, I think you need to hire me. No, you need somebody just like me. You need a coach or a mentor, somebody that's going to help you plan and strategize. Because what happens as a business owner, we get bright, shiny object syndrome, and we start, hey, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? How do we evaluate it? Does it fall in line with where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do? So remember, as a business owner, you need to go ahead and pick the right business relationships to help you and your business, get ready to grow. So that's what we're going to talk a lot about today, man. We got some great guests. We got Kat Baker. We've got Kristen Gunderson. They're going to be talking about. We got some new people that's coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about conflict resolution. So get ready. It's going to be a great show today. I'm your business guide, Michael Rager, here on Biz Talk TV with Michael Rager here on NowMedia Television. We'll be back right after this.
Working through the legal system is challenging and risky, especially if you don't have the right attorney at your side. Hi, my name is Sonia Aston, and I'm an attorney with over 30 years of experience. I've helped small and medium-sized businesses and business owners to make sure that their legal rights and interests are protected. As general counsel for you and your organization, I can draft and review solid contracts, minimize the risk of litigation, review and prepare comprehensive business succession plans, or help you navigate your company with the local, state, and federal government. Take a decisive step today. I'm here to make sure your legal rights are protected and you have a peace of mind that you deserve.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV with Michael Rager. I'm your business guide, Michael Rager. We're here on NowMedia TV and all of its networks around the world. We got our good friend, Kat Becker. Kat, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Michael. Lovely to be here.
Man, so you're always a great part of my Thursday. I love it when I get to see you.
Thank you.
We're going to talk today about the do's and don'ts of building relationships. Now, building relationships in business, they can be kind of difficult, can't they? What are some of the pros and cons of building close relationships in business?
Well, there's a lot of similarities between how you build relationships in your personal life, but there are some specific things that are going to be a little bit different in business because of the nature of it. And so I'm going to really focus on the do's instead of the don'ts, because I want to keep that positive aspect in people's minds. But there's a concept called mirror and match. And this is basically when you're meeting someone for the first time, you want to very quickly be able to assess certain parts of their characteristics. You know, a great one that you can tell very quickly off the bat is what's their energy level at. Are they someone who's really bubbly and full of energy? Because if so, you're going to need to rise and raise your energy to match them. And if they're a little bit more chill, you need to come meet them where they're at. And so this is some way that really builds very quick rapport. And it's because deep down, people like people who are like them. So, you want to work with people that you like. So to help facilitate that faster, it's helpful to do this mirroring and matching. The sort of second step to that is if you can understand some basic personality traits and what those look like, that can help you to adjust your language and your approach. And this works really well in a sales cycle in particular, because you're going to know if someone, you can use personality types and body language to determine if someone is a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker. And that's going to change how your sales approach comes through. So that's a really great way to, again, you're meeting somebody where they're at, but you're tailoring your approach to the situation. And it's going to help you to build a relationship and help you to be more successful in what you're doing. In fact, I teach an entire course on personality assessments and how to quickly understand that and what you can do to help interactions with the persons that you're working with to help facilitate and build that, because it is it really is an important skill. Thirdly, active listening. And this is something that is really difficult for people in the sales cycle, in the sales process, because they're the ones who are wanting, if you're the one who's wanting to be the one selling, you need to have the active listening of what your potential client or customer is telling you. And it goes back to, you want to be interested versus being interesting. So there's a few other ones, but I wanted to get your feedback on those before we go to the next
you let me
part.
talk. Sweet. One of the things that I use simple, I'm a very simple guy. I'm pretty good with DISC. I can go in and do a DISC profile on somebody fairly quick and have a pretty good idea how to talk to them. Do you teach your clients how to use something simple like that, or do you go a little bit more detail into how that person's personality is?
It's as simple in the fact that there's not an assessment that someone has to take. Mm-hmm. I can give someone the personality test just on a piece of paper really quickly. And it's based on shapes, which is fantastic because the shape itself represents the characteristics. So it's easily to remember. But one of the things that I teach is different phrases to watch out for, that there's certain personality types are more likely to say certain phrases than others, and also how to do a handwriting assessment. So this is great, especially now that most people are working, back face to face. So if you're in a meeting with someone, or if there's a form someone has to fill out for you, you can look at the handwriting and quickly assess what personality type they are, or most likely to be.
No, that's interesting. And I know last night I was doing an interview with one of my clients. He's looking to bring somebody in as a business partner, and we got talking, and he asked a question, and the guy didn't answer it the way that he thought he would. And then I went back and asked the guy a couple questions about it, and I went back to the DISC profile, and I knew this guy was a high C. He was an engineer. He was compliant. He wrote giant long manuals. And I said, okay, you took this assessment from him, but does this sound like this guy? And he went, oh my God, to a T. That's him. And he goes, how do you figure that out? And I go, it's kind of a skill, and it's a skill you've got to learn as a business owner when you're going in to build relationships, right?
Absolutely, because people feel seen. When you can understand who they are at their core and then act accordingly, it really helps people to feel seen, and that just takes away any sort of level of skepticism that someone might have when coming into a new relationship. It helps them to bring their guard down a little bit, and they don't have to feel so guarded all the time.
So, going from there, establishing somebody's personality, seeing what you can understand. What other things do we got to look at as a business owner when we go ahead and start looking at relationships? Besides personality, what other things can we do to help build that relationship and build it quickly?
Another big topic is situational awareness. So I used to do consulting work for a company called Mopar, and they provide aftermarket parts to Chrysler and Chrysler's brands like Dodge and Jeep and Ram. So when I would go to visit their offices, you made or make darn sure that I was renting a Chrysler brand car. I was not renting a Mazda or a Honda or anything else, or a Ford or a Chevy. Like, I was driving their cars to bring there. And it's that kind of situational awareness. The same way that you wouldn't go into a Nike office wearing Under Armour, right? So it's about reading the room and the situation. And, you know, if you go into someone's office and they have a photo of Trump on the wall, you know, bringing in political stuff, you're probably not going to go in and be like, did you see that awesome State of the Union that President Biden gave the other week? You know, so it's those kind of things about being aware of your surroundings and then making sure that you're using common sense on how you're bringing those things up. And another area that really helps to build relationship is to build trust. And you think, well, how do I build trust? And it's as simple as doing what you say you are going to do. So in you're having this conversation, if something comes up and you're like, oh, you know, let me do X, Y, Z for you, you have to make sure that you're following up on that and that you're having follow through with whatever it is that you're doing. And then lastly, I think very importantly is about adding value, and adding value from a very much place of generosity and not like, it's strategically adding value, but you're doing it from a very genuine place and knowing that if that person doesn't reciprocate value back to you, you're not going to get bent out of shape about it. And value can be as simple as, you know, what's a connection? Who's an introduction that I can bring to this person that's going to help them in their business, that is going to be something that I can do for them that doesn't really cost any time, very little money, you know, or no money, very little time, but it's something that's going to really help the other person. And that's a really great way to build a relationship with someone.
Well, yeah, I think you said the one thing, you know, trust, and building trust in a business relationship is one of the most important things. And not doing what you say you're going to do is going to erode trust, I think, pretty much quicker than anything else, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you say you're going to do one thing and you end up doing another, I mean, people tell us who they are all the time. Mm. You know, 90% of the words that we say are coming from our subconscious. People aren't even aware that they're actually saying them. So if you're utilizing active listening and listening to what people are saying and watching their body language, you're 99% of the way there. You know who that person is. It's just that most of the time we don't utilize that skill set because we're so busy focusing on ourselves and thinking about what we're saying and what we want to get out of the conversation or out of the relationship that we're missing those crucial clues.
Yeah, one of the things I have my clients do is go back after a conversation, especially with somebody new, go back and sit down. We used to call it visiting the island. And we said, when we get back, next time I'm going to go to the island, I'm going to do this. I'll do this. And it's going back and going through that discussion in your mind and saying, you know what, I didn't actively listen. Or, you know what, I tried to interject there. I got to make sure I don't do that. And it helps us become more situationally aware as we go into the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting, especially if people aren't used to doing stuff like that. So we got about a minute left. You got any last minute tips there? And then how do people get a hold of you?
Well, I think, you know, one of the ways that I learned how to do this is I had a mentor who every time we would leave a meeting, similar to what you mentioned about the island, he would ask me, you know, what did you see? What did you hear? And would have me mentally kind of go through like, oh, I noticed this person really wasn't taking notes. Does that mean that they weren't interested in what we were talking about? You know, those kind of things, so that it's become an unconscious competence of being able to see what people are doing. But you can get a hold of me through my website at resultsetter.com. This is where I do my personality assessments and other type of team building within corporations and teams.
Oh, that'd be great. That's awesome, Kristen, Kat. I love coming on and talking to you because it's like there's so many things going on. And see, I see looking ahead. You know, see, there I was situation I wasn't aware. I was seeing who I was talking to next. I go call you, Kristen. But you know, it's amazing. So you know, this is one of the most important things that business owners need to do is they got to build relationships well, and they got to build them solid. And you know, the better we build them, the better the business is going to be long term, right?
Absolutely.
Well, great. I can't wait to see you next week. You know, as I'm so excited about everything, and you know, I hope you have a great week. Are you traveling?
Not this week.
Oh, you're staying home. Look at that. She's staying at home. I love it. I love it. Your kids are going to love that too. So
yes, they are, and they've got a 4-day weekend. So we're going to put in lots of intentional family time.
Yeah, I found that out last night. My kid let me know. Well, Kat, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you next time. You have a great one. This is Michael Razor, your business guide here on Biz Talk TV. We'll be back right after this.
República H, con Sofía García. Una república que necesita saber cuál es el camino correcto. En República H te diremos qué pasa en cada rincón del país. ¿Qué pasa en tu estado? ¿Qué hace tu gobernador, presidente municipal o alcalde en materia de seguridad, salud, desarrollo, economía o servicios básicos para atender a su población? Tenemos desplegados más de 70 corresponsales en todo el país y más allá de las fronteras. República H, de lunes a viernes a las 8 de la noche por Heraldo Televisión.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your host and business guide, Michael Rager. We're here on the NowMedia Television networks. I got my good friend Kristen Gunderson, and we're going to talk about building your business. I'm going to talk about it from a coach's perspective. Kristen's going to talk it about from that important side, the financial side. So, Kristen, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on the Biz Talk show today, Michael.
Well, one of the things we were talking about in the break, we're coming here and we're talking about, culture in business and profit. I always tell my clients that culture eats talent for lunch. How do you look at helping businesses understand how good and how much a culture helps them on their bottom line?
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't realize that culture and the revenue is directly related to each other. But yeah, you need to think of culture as like a four-legged stool. You need to be able to pay your employees well. You need to provide them with excellent benefits, have a really great retirement for them, and provide an opportunity for them to grow and to learn and just to be able to grow. That is going to keep your talent and it's going to keep them happy.
Yeah, finding good and great talent. Good talent's one thing, great talent's another thing, and helping building that culture to make a place where people want to go to work in. Because one of the things we were talking about, very few businesses even make it to $1 million in revenue, don't they?
Yeah, it really shocked me when I heard this, but only 7% make it to $1 million in revenue a year. That just blows my mind. And what surprised me even more is that only 40% of businesses are actually profitable, but yet 99.9% of all businesses are small businesses, and the IRS anyone who has 500 or more employees is included as a big business, and small business employs over half of the United States. So it's really important that small businesses thrive because they're the backbone of the economy.
Yeah, when we look at businesses and what we got to do is, one of the things that I start with is strategy, and I think we talked this about in another segment, exit. We always start with the beginning with the end in mind. I tell people is you don't go to your home builder and tell them, build me a house. Where do you go first? You go to the architect, right? So how do when they come to you and you start talking about the finances, how do you help people start to put together that plan to build their business?
Yeah, well, in the first $0 to $1 million, you really need to get your unit level economics figured out. You need to figure out, say if you have a cleaning company, you need to be able to figure out, do you need 2 people on that cleaning crew? That makes sense. People can go in and do all the cleaning the floors and stuff like that, and maybe someone's dusting, but they get it done quicker if there's 2 people there. So how many people are on your cleaning crew, and figuring out what their average wage is. I mean, you might have a main person who's there and they might make $25 an hour, and then you might have someone who makes $15 an hour, so it averages out to be $20 an hour for this crew. And then you got to figure out how many houses can they do a day? How many cleanings can they do? You need to figure out what else goes into their costs besides taxes, but you might have to, if they're driving their own car, you have to reimburse them for mileage, or you need to provide a car for them, and a car might be about $1,200 between the payment, the insurance, the wear and tear, the gas. And what else goes into that? If you have a cleaning company, you need to buy a vacuum, and you need to buy cleaning supplies and rags. So you need to figure out exactly what all that is for one unit, just what one unit is, and then how many houses can they clean a day? How much are you charging per clean? And once you have those numbers, you need to be making a profit. So we need to kind of back into it, but you should be making at least a 10% profit. 10% is good. That's what your goal is 10% bottom line for if you're under $1 million in sales. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's a minimum. One of the things that I have clients just along the way you're going is figuring out break even. Mm-hmm. Where do I break even? Where do I get to? And what exactly do I have to do that what's coming in equals what's going out? and then how do we take it to the next step?
Exactly.
And usually it comes to capacity issues, right? You know, it's are we running at 50% capacity, 70% capacity, 100% capacity, and how do we move them that way? So when you start looking from a financial side, I think one of the most important mistakes that people make is one is they don't understand COGS at all. They don't know how to. When I go look at financial statements, it's like, no, this is a cost of goods sold. This is not a fixed cost. They don't know how to do, and they don't know how to do markup.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, how do you explain how to do markup? Because that's an important thing. People think they're making 30% and they're not.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to shoot for like a 40% markup, basically you take whatever your total cost is or whatever, and you divide it by, say, 40.40. And that's how you can get your markup. Because you also need to consider, like, if you have that cleaning company, you don't want to be, like, you may start out cleaning, but you eventually want to get out of cleaning. Like, you need to be able to replace yourself. The goal is for you to be able to be up on that bridge and to have different, have 4 or 5 different cleaning crews and keep on growing as your capacity goes. But if you can't figure out that markup, and it's a calculated, you just have to be able to know your numbers and be able to calculate, and that's why you need a good bookkeeper or an accountant to be able to help you with that, because the business owner doesn't necessarily know their numbers. They're good at doing what they do. You need to have that people on your team, like a good bookkeeper or an accountant, to be able to help you figure those out, and then they can help guide you and back into it.
Yeah, I do both blue and white collar clients, and I see them, and I'm going to tell you, like, you know, lawyers are good lawyers and they're awful business owners, even if they're business attorneys. You know, it's like that. I got a big concrete company as a client. He's great. He understands it, but he doesn't understand the financials. You got to bring those professionals on in your team and build that team so you can move things out. You know, and I think that's where it comes as professionals like us. We've got tools to help them look at these things and do that, because I see it all the time. You just talked about dividing, you know, into that number to get your COGS. Most people, what they do is they do a multiplier. They go 1.4. Okay, that's it. And they end up finding out they're only doing about, 31%, where, the other way you're actually getting 40.
Yeah.
And you do it a lot, right?
Yep. And I guess some other things that you can think about in order to increase your profit and get that business growing is, one thing that sticks out to me right now is, when's the last time you've raised your prices? Like, everyone is raising their prices, across the board. You're getting emails left and right from different companies. Hey, we're going up. And so if you haven't raised your prices recently, go ahead and send out the email. Everyone is basically expecting that price increase right now. So there's never been a better time to increase that prices. And someone has to own price. You need to be set on your calendar. You're the CEO. You're the one who's doing it right now. Set on your calendar for January 1st and for, say, July 1st to do a price increase. And then you also need to figure out what price you really should be charging. So if you have people who are grandfathered in, but you can also you need to have a model, like a template that you can easily use and train other people in your businesses to be able to get an estimate out to your clients. Of course, you need to make sure it's correct, but you need to make sure that anyone can do that. But for new clients that are coming in and maybe they're not grandfathered in, make sure that pricing is set correctly, and that will help increase your bottom line pretty dang quickly if you're charging the correct price to start with.
Yeah, we were talking before we went on camera here. I got a tool that I use. It's a simulator. And we go, hey, look, I'll show anybody how to double their profit in 3 minutes or less. And the first one thing is raise your prices 5%. Mm-hmm. The second thing I think people need to do is, you see it all the time at the gas stations now. They've got a cash price and a credit card price. And there's a lot of things right now. There's actually companies out there that'll help you on your invoicing to charge you for that credit card fee. Yeah. We're used to it. We're used to it right now, and I know it eats, because you're 3 to 4 to 5% sometimes. Mm-hmm. Just keep coming off, and that can really hurt you. Yeah. And go from there. So if people want to set up an appointment with you and really sit down and look at their numbers and have you help them understand their P&L statements and their balance sheets and stuff like that, how do they set an appointment with you so they can sit down and really get your professional advice?
The easiest way is to literally call our office. I have a VA now who answers the phone 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but during business hours. So 936-372-2661, and just ask them to meet with me, and they can literally set up an appointment that works in my schedule and with your schedule. literally, that is the easiest way to get an appointment with me, and I'd love to meet you and see how I can help you.
Well, you also got some networking things going on, right? How do they just go out and just meet Kristen out and about and hang out with you? What do you got going on up north?
Well, every Thursday I actually network on Zoom. It's a worldwide networking event. It's this one's females only, and we meet on Zoom. So if you want that information, reach out to me on like Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Gunderson's Bookkeeping, or you can just find me at Kristen Gunderson. I can send you the link to that. We'd love to have people who can do business in more than one state there. And then I also have I've been doing a Waller County Small Business Connection, and we meet once a month in person. So the next event is coming up the first Wednesday of March, and kind of all of Waller County is getting together, and we're going to be at Pine Island Country Store from like 5 to 7 p.m. And then I network a lot in Cypress too, so whenever those events come up, I try to hit those up.
Well, awesome, Kristen, because that's it. You got to get out there, got to meet people, and It's a lot
Exactly.
more fun than just picking up the phone. So this is Michael Rager, your business guide. We're going to be back right after this.
En esta era digital, las tarjetas de presentación de negocio son cosa del pasado. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que las reciben las pierden en cuestión de minutos. La videotarjeta de negocios de NowMedia es un video de su negocio especialmente creado por nuestros expertos con toda su información de contacto, los productos y servicios de su negocio, y puede ser enviado de manera rápida utilizando su teléfono móvil. Cientos de negocios ya están viendo la diferencia. Llámenos hoy al 832-384-9588.
¿Qué Onda Magazine? Una publicación hispana de noticias y entretenimiento. Sirviendo a la comunidad hispana por más de 25 años. El mejor contenido para estar informado. Política, comunidad, moda, cultura, entretenimiento, cocina, comercio y más. Obtenga su copia gratis en todas las taquerías Arandas.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your host and guide, Michael Rager, and we're here on the NowMedia Television networks. Hey, I got my good friend David Murphy. He's visiting us. I think he's in Idaho still. David, how you doing today?
I am well. Sunshiny and cold.
Well, it's probably a little bit colder than it is here in Houston, right?
Just a hair.
Yeah. So, all right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about it's things you and I have talked about in the past together when we're out, having a cocktail. We're talking about business divorce and setting up the right agreements. Now, when we're coming in and starting a business, what types of agreements do we really need to start with to protect every entity in case something goes bad?
Well, each entity has its own type of document, but they're all basically the same thing. It's the governing rules of how the business is going to run. And whether you call it a partnership agreement, a company agreement, or bylaws for a corporation, it's all the same thing. This is the outline of what we're going to do together. And you're setting out those rules when you're still in the honeymoon phase. Because when you get to we're going to get separated and get a corporate divorce phase, you don't want to be dealing with trying to negotiate those issues then. That's when it really gets costly. Pay the money up front to have a good agreement written for yourselves. Make sure it outlines what you want specifically for your business. God forbid, don't go to LegalZoom and get a template document that most people turn into a paperweight or a doorstop and never sign the darn thing.
Yeah, well, what kind of things, okay, we say the honeymoon's going, right? And then other things happen, what if a partner or a member, gets divorced? What happens if they get sick and die? How are those types of things incorporated in the agreement, and why is it important?
Well, I mean, that's a fantastic issue to talk about. Let's tell stories. I'm a storyteller.
Okay.
So, Michael, you and I go into business, and we're going to have some sort of business consulting agreement business, and it's going wonderfully. And your significant other, my significant other, we all go out and have dinner. We love being together. We're good friends. But you didn't go into business with my wife. You went into business with me. So if I get hit by a bus and get taken out, you don't necessarily want to be a business partner with my wife. You at least want that option to make that decision yourself. Without a properly drafted agreement, then my interest in our business is going to transfer to my wife under the probate code. And now you're forced to be a business owner with her, and you like her at cocktail parties, but you two don't think like each other as far as businesses are concerned.
So, yeah, that's really important on how that goes. But how do we sit down and make that decision? You know, is where in the decision making process? Is that really early? So, do we mitigate as we start in the business?
When I'm working with clients, and it's more than just an individual or a husband and wife, I always stress to them, let's get everything in the operating agreement, one single document, whether it's bylaws, a company agreement, or a partnership agreement, whatever. Let's get everything in the company agreement that outlines how all these things are going to work. Let's outline how membership interest, how stock interest can get transferred. Do we want it to transfer freely? Do we want it to be a limited structure? If there's going to be a new member, if I got hit by that bus and the interest is going to pass to my wife, legally she's going to have an equitable interest, and you and I both would want our significant others to be taken care of if something happened to us by the business that we created. But I don't want your wife or my wife to be able to vote and make decisions on the business. That's not how we put this thing together. So strict transfer provisions, inclusion provisions where you have to be voted in as a member, and most importantly, we call it the 4 Ds, is that there's a right of first refusal for the company to buy away interest in a situation like that, whether it's divorce, disability, someone dies, or quite frankly, they're just ready to retire in disinterest. I want the original people controlling this company to be able to keep control of the company and have an agreement to buy out. So we put in these transfer provisions, these 4D clauses, and we also have a buy-sell provision, because if something happens, and we've had a successful business, and my wife agrees that she's going to sell without any fuss my interest back to the company, well, maybe that interest is worth $1 million and the company doesn't have $1 million liquid. And going and getting $1 million loan is going to cripple you. Well, so if we've got a proper buy-sell provision in there, then the company can pay my wife a down payment of whatever's initiated in the agreement. Generally, it's 10 to 20%. And then have a buyout plan. Essentially, you're financing your own buyout. But those things need to be done at the beginning when everybody's still happy, thinking alike, and we don't have any problems.
Yeah. How often should we look at these agreements and look at updating them and revising them?
Anytime there's a major change in your business, you want to look at what you've got going on. Anytime you're going to have an ownership equity structure change, you want to look at that. If you're looking at bringing on different capital partners, what's that going to do? What kind of responsibilities are going to change? Pardon me. Is it going to change your tax structure? We're going to outline in the operating agreements what kind of tax structure we're going to be looking at. So you want to visit these things probably at least once a year. Doesn't mean you need to make a change on them, but when you're going to be doing your annual review, either at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, to try to find out what you're doing for the next year, it's a good time to look at those agreements.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is during your annual meeting, is that a good time, or pre-annual meeting, to meet with your team and meet with your lawyer to say, hey, is everything still here the way we want it to be? Is that the way they should do it?
That's my suggestion. I mean, again, depending on your entity type, we've talked about this in past segments, you may or may not be required statutorily to have that annual meeting. But if you're going to be a business owner and you're going to be successful, you have to plan with the end in mind. If you don't set a goal, you're just going to be wandering in the forest. So that's the same thing with these agreements. If you don't tend to them and you don't manage your garden, then it can get out of control.
Well, let's talk about this, Dave. We got about 3 minutes left. What happens if we don't do this agreement and crap hits the fan?
Well, so then you end up in some serious issues. Once you've got a disagreement going, I mean, obviously coming to an immediate resolution isn't as easy. Coming to an agreement between parties when you're fighting is never a good thing. And then if it gets to a complete disaster, you end up in litigation, a corporate divorce inside the court system, and that could end up costing tens of thousands of dollars that could have all been resolved prior to this with an agreement between the parties and say how you're going to move away from each other, whose interest is what. If you go forward without an agreement and you end up in the court system, then you're getting forensic accountants to determine whose equity interest is what kind of capital contributions were made, what is the value of anything, how are you supposed to value the business for a division. The company agreements can outline that you're either doing, asset value or net book value of what you report to the IRS. It just makes it a heck of a lot easier. If you end up in the court system, the only people that are ever going to be happy with that are the attorneys.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just kind of like any other divorce. Business divorce versus a regular divorce. It's something that's very traumatic. It's going to cost a lot of money, and they could have been in for probably under 10 grand to get you in the beginning to set this thing up, but to exit, we were talking about a few that you're talking about a couple $100,000 they lost.
We've had cases that unfortunately have been six-figure attorney fees, not six-figure awards. Right.
You enjoy that, right?
My kids got to go to school, so I got. You see the pictures behind me. I've got kids that are now college age, so the college still wants their tuition.
Yeah. So, David, if people want to get together with you and set up these agreements up front, how do they get a hold of you?
They can call our office at 281-475-2022. We're also on the web at murphyslawpllc.com. murphyslawpllc.com. The ladies at the office would be happy to take your phone calls or your emails and see what we can do to help you out.
Well, that's great.
We'll set up an initial conference call with anyone who's interested. 10-15 minutes on the phone should let us know whether or not we can help you or you need a full consultation.
Well, that's awesome, Dave, man. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the cool weather out there, and we'll see you when you get back to Houston, all right?
Sounds good. Take care, Michael.
All right, man. This is Michael Rager, your business guide here on NowMedia Television and Biz Talk with Michael Rager. We'll see you right after this.
Le invita a su servidor Javier Solórzano a que todas las noches en Heraldo Televisión esté con nosotros entre las 21 horas y las 22 horas del centro en Referente. Estamos informando, tratando de que usted tenga todas las piezas de este rompecabezas informativo cotidiano a través de Referente. Lo esperamos, Heraldo Televisión, Referente, 21 a 22 horas, Javier Solórzano.
Hey, welcome back to Biz Talk TV. I'm your host, Michael Rager, and we're here on NowMedia TV and all of its channels around the world. Man, we got some new guests today, and that's what I'm looking for. You're gonna bring some new blood in, get some new situations going on for you business owners. And here in studio, we got Mac Pierre Louise, and over in Warsaw, we've got his partner, Natalie See, I was doing it so well. We were practicing. Olowaska Chaka. How you two doing today? How you doing, Mac?
Good. Thanks so much for having us. And Mac Pierre Louis is my name.
Natalia, how are you today?
And absolutely great. I'm excited to be talking about the things we love doing.
Yeah, you guys specialize in conflict resolution. So, Mac, tell me a little bit about conflict resolution and what should we be looking at?
All right. So, we focus mostly on conflict, resolving disputes between parties. We're lawyers, we're mediators, but we've been spending the last number of years litigating, but we're trying to transition over into mediation or helping people fix the disputes that plague their everyday lives. And so conflict resolution, what really it is the process through which disputing parties resolve their differences in a way that is beneficial to each party, to each side. And what we're trying to do is bring that approach to resolving conflicts and resolving disputes in the workplace, especially in family life, to everyday affairs as a first instance, where people don't think first, hey, I got a problem, I want to go ahead and call a lawyer. Why don't people consider calling a mediator instead and seeing if a third-party neutral can help them resolve their disputes? We think this is lacking in our society. We think if people knew that a first option was to call a mediator first instead of a lawyer, we might be able to get a lot of cases resolved out of court quickly, efficiently, and save people money and time.
So, Natalia, we see conflicts all over the place. You know, where do you see them most, and where do you think that you and Mac come in and really help people the best?
Great question, and thank you for that. You see conflict in life everywhere. So it can be your everyday conflict that you have with your spouses, family members. That can be the conflicts you might have with your neighbors. That can be the conflicts that you can look at from the perspective of the business, with your contractors, with the businesses you are in business with. And that's actually, when you look at it, you have so many dimensions of conflict. The main focus of all of them is that they cost you stress, they cost you money, and a lot of time. So you can look at conflict in terms of it being personally and internally engaging. You can look at it as being a social thing, and also something that happens in the workplace or business. And you can look at it environmentally, systemically, or even governmentally. Main thing about it is that you can't look at the conflict as something only bad that is happening, because actually the resolution of the conflict brings a big change into your life, moves you forward. And this is the approach we are taking. We want to help people move forward in their lives, whatever sort of conflict they are facing.
Well, here in the U.S., Mac, we've become a very litigious society, right? How can business owners deal with conflict without getting in there?
Yeah, so the main approach is consider conflict resolution first as an alternative to simply calling a lawyer up. Not every case can go to the mediation table. Okay, there's different kinds of mediation, whereas whether it's mediation, arbitration, coordination, facilitation, negotiation, settlement, ombudsmen, there's different types of ways you can mediate. However, the way to address the over litigious nature of our society is to get people to understand that one of the options is to call a mediator's office first, let the other side, your opponent, know, hey, here's a mediator I'd like to go to. Could we sit down and talk to them? Can we see how we can, take a less adversarial approach to resolving our disputes? If people could understand that that option exists, then I think that will do a lot to reducing just the backlogged courts and reducing the conflicts that are in our hyper, litigious society.
Well, let me ask you this, Natalia. As a lawyer, it seems like kind of the antithesis, you guys are doing something different. So why did you decide to do things this way versus the way that other lawyers do it?
We decided to concentrate on alternative dispute resolution, meaning alternative to the court system, which embrace mediation and arbitration, but also negotiations, because we can see so many benefits of it. And look at that. It saves you costs. It saves you money. It saves you stress, because in mediation, you go to an environment that is known to you, close to you, in an atmosphere that gives you full respect and enables you to tell what is important for you. You can't be guaranteed that in the court. And you are going for a solution that is going to be legally binding despite of all the benefits it gives you. It's voluntary. It's also something that helps you deal with difficult emotions. And the way you solve the problem is absolutely controlled by you, because you are not going to sign a mediated settlement agreement, which is the binding document being the result of the mediation, if it is not satisfying your needs. So it is really a great way out of any situation where you are stuck, whether in business or in life.
So these types of issues, as a law firm, I see it before, we got business divorce happen, we got regular divorce happen. Why should people start looking at mediation? I know it can be easier, it can be cheaper, but when should they start looking at it? How soon in the process, when they start seeing an issue, should they start looking at this?
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of mediation, actually. You can mediate at any phase in the process. You can do pre-suit mediation, where you attack the problem head on and you say, look, before I even sue you, I'm going to invite you to talk to me first and try the negotiation process to see if we can maybe reach a compromise or a settlement that will be beneficial to both of us. Or midway in the litigation process, after a lawsuit's been commenced, you can say, hey, you know what, I've bit more than I can chew. Why don't I approach the other side in a less adversarial manner and go sit down and talk things out first? And finally, before a final trial, before the judge has spoken, you always have the power to take the power back and do the sit down. And this is why it requires you to go to a third-party neutral, somebody who's going to be objective, somebody who's going to know that, be an expert in the field that is in dispute, and be able to help the parties resolve it. It might be something small, whether it's a divorce, like you mentioned, just between two people. It might be something big, where it's a dispute that involves millions of dollars between companies and contracts. But whatever it is, dispute at every level can be resolved and addressed, properly, expeditiously, and cheaply through the mediation table.
Awesome. Well, Natalia, you mentioned that you guys have a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that podcast and where do people find it?
Oh, thank you so much. Because for educational purposes, we decided that we need to also go out and speak about mediation the way it can be done in the most beneficial way. So we are trying to educate the public on mediation, and our podcast can be achieved on any platform you are at. You are listening to your podcast, and it's called LMI podcast, which stands for Lawyers and Mediators International. We also have a YouTube channel that concentrates on that, and all our podcasts are also video casts, so you can see all our heroes, everybody who is speaking there and encouraging to mediate, also in person. And we have lovely topics, we have beautiful guests, and we really make progress. We can see people are interested in that, and we can do some sort of a good job in helping people solve their issues outside of courts.
Well, awesome. Well, Mac, you're here in Houston. Where do people get a hold of you and how do they find you?
Yeah, so Natalia and I, we actually share one website that has links to all of our websites. My website directly is, of course, macpierre.com, just my name. However, if people go to alaskapierre.com, that's where they'll be able to see my direct link, Natalia's direct link, and all the different projects we do together. It's the simplest way, and of course it has links to the podcast as well, where people can watch us on YouTube and learn more about mediation, especially online mediation.
Well, that's awesome. Any last words from you, Natalia?
Just go and mediate, and you will see how beneficial it will be to you, to any issue you had, whether in family, in business, with your coworker, anything that you think is too big and it's overcoming you, you can do it in a peaceful, respectful atmosphere and be done with it.
Well, awesome. It's great having you guys on. I'm looking forward to the next several weeks to learning more about you guys and how conflict resolution can really be solved through mediation and really helping families and businesses grow. So I hope you guys have a great week, and we're going to see you next week. My name is Michael Rager. I'm your business guide here on NowMedia TV. We'll be back in just a little bit with more Biz Talk TV.
Soy Darío Celis y te espero de lunes a viernes a la 1 de la tarde en Tiempo de Negocios, en donde encontrarás la información más importante de negocios, economía y finanzas, aquí por Heraldo Televisión, en el canal 8 de Teleabierta.
Hey, welcome back. I'm your business guide, Michael Rager, and I'm here with my good friend, Keith Cothrell from Houston Tax Attorney. Keith, how are you today?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing really well.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about something that's really hot right now, and I know a lot of business owners are hearing it. ETCs, employee tax credits, right? You got a lot of companies going out and pushing and say, hey, we can find you $26,000 for employees, Bastion's thing, it had to do with back in 2019, 2020. What's going on with those things, and how real are they?
So they are real for certain people, and the employee tax credits. One of the things that you have to look at is there's certain conditions that are met that you have to meet. One of them is whether or not you are affected. So you're affected by, or you were affected by the government shutdown. So these are like your nightclubs, your restaurants, things like that. And if you're affected by the government shutdown, and it's an either or. So there's three conditions. That one. The second one is you look at your gross receipts in 2019 for a certain quarter. So in 2020, it's the second, third, and fourth quarter. In 2021, it's all four quarters. And what you'll do is you'll compare in 2019 third quarter, 2020 third quarter. If there's a 50% reduction in that particular quarter in gross receipts, you might qualify. If there's a 20% reduction between 2021 third quarter and 2019 third quarter, then you may qualify as well. And then there's something called recovery startup business, and that's the third condition. And so if you meet those conditions, then it could be a very real credit to you.
Well, it's, Keith, one of the things I hear is, because business owners are coming to me and they're saying, hey, we have somebody call us, they told us we're available, this is possible. But when I ask them, they get, well, we made more money, or we had some certain things happen. We're a construction company, we made more money. Are there still viable options for them to, get additional tax credits, versus like the nightclubs that you were saying?
Yeah. So in that case, they may not necessarily qualify for it. And, we were talking before we got on air here about, there's a lot of really bad actors out there that are doing these. And you've got to make certain that the person who's doing it knows what they're doing, because if you get someone who doesn't know what they're doing, then you're going to pay essentially the credit plus penalties. And so obviously you don't want that to happen. So vet the people that are doing it. The people that I utilize to do it for me are essentially CPAs or accountants, and I vet them and make certain that they know what they're doing.
Well, it's sometimes going to be some of those things that if they're too good to be true, we should kind of look forward or look past it. Or, like you say, reach out to your CPA, talk to them, and see what we should really do. That's
right. And with construction companies, actually what you might be able to do as a construction company is you might be able to do the work opportunity tax credit. And that allows you to, it's similar in a sense where you get to actually take up to $2,400 per employee as a credit, and these are targeted groups. So if you hire someone in a targeted group who's an ex-felon, a veteran, somebody with SNAP benefits, then they've got to work at least 400 hours. They have to work. You do this within the first year of employment, no rehires. And you got to file a Form 8850 within 28 days to the proper local agency. If you do all that, and this is just kind of a surface level talk on this, you do all those things, then maybe if you don't qualify for the employee retention credit, then perhaps you can take that credit.
Okay. So that's kind of cool, and I like that. So tell me something. We were talking a little bit before we come on. Transparency. There's some new things that are going on in transparency and corporate transparency. Tell me a little bit about that.
So the new thing that's coming out now that's going to really encapsulate a lot of people, anyone really, LLCs, C corps, S corps. There's something called the Corporate Transparency Act. It's been around for a little while. But what it's going to require you to do as of January 1st, 2024 is to report your beneficial owners. And that's anyone who owns 25% of the company or more or has substantial control over it. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to take, there's cartels, there's other bad actors, RICO issues where they're hiding behind these legitimate companies and transacting illegal activity. And so they want to understand who's involved in this business so that if there's anything nefarious going on, then the IRS knows about it.
Well, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want the IRS and everybody to know about everything. And I know we were talking a little bit, ESG, and I know when you start getting some bigger companies and corporate stuff, it's environmental, social, and governance, and it's all about being transparent about how you handle, these different things in your business. So why is it important, as a business owner, just not to be compliant with the government, but why is it important to be transparent in what you're doing, as a business owner?
Well, it's good to be transparent, and and one quick thing, on that act is that you don't have to do it if you're already regulated, like if you're a bank or you work with the SEC, public utilities, you don't have to worry about it. But to go back to your particular question, then it's good to be transparent because it will get you in a lot less trouble, obviously, right? And one of the things I talk about all the time is, keep your separate bank account for your business, to transact all your activities through there so that there's a paper trail. And that'll help with regulations as well, especially if you're a regulated industry. You're going to want to do that.
Well, cool, Keith. Well, you've been doing a lot of talking lately. Tell me a little bit about some of the events you've been doing and what you've got coming up here in the future, so people can go see you and learn more from you.
Yes. So if you follow me on Houston Tax Attorney at Houston Tax Attorney, if you follow that, or you see my name there, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you're going to see the presentations that are coming up and the tax videos that I do as well. My next presentation is going to be on March 1st in Greenway Plaza at Mass Mutual. You have a different name now, but we're going to be talking about a lot of these business tax credits and business strategies and things that are coming up. And as soon as they get me a flyer that I can send out and post, I'm going to let everybody know about it.
Well, that'd be great, man. How do people get a hold of you right now?
Right now, you can get a hold of me through the phone number you see on the screen, the 832-402-4440. My email there, kcothrell@cothrell.com, the website, or through social media, Houston Tax Attorney.
Well, that's great, Keith. Well, thanks a lot, man. I know I follow you a lot, and I share some of your stuff on my LinkedIn a lot because I know the stuff you're giving is very important for business owners, and it's the subject as business owners that we really don't want to tackle, and that's what we need professionals, like you around to really help us. And hopefully one day we'll talk about how you helped me, a few years ago, and I don't know if you got me out of a little jam, but you got me out of my own way, right?
Yes.
Well, awesome. Well, this has been a really great show. I love it. We've had some great new people come on. But really what I want to talk about is, we talked about today was relationships. How do we build new relationships in business? When a relationship gets in a little bit of trouble, what do we do? One of the things that I do is called whiteboards and whiskey, and that's what it's about. It's, like it says there, is ditch the small talk and get down to business. And that's what it's around. It's just building relationships about what you need to do, getting people together on things that we need to do so we can help small business owners as a community get better. Because one of the things, a new friend of mine, he was talking to me about this the other day. He said, most business owners aren't patted on the back enough. We need that pat on the back for the fact that we actually have gone out there and we've taken a chance, and we've taken a chance to go build a company, and we've taken a chance to go hire people. And that's a really big thing. Small businesses in America hire more people than big businesses. And guys like Keith, is here. He needs a pat on the back. Keith's gone through those days. We've gone through those days where we haven't gotten paid, where we haven't done anything. We had to just dig through it and get there. So as small business owners, we need to pat each other on the back. We need to celebrate each other and really help each other grow. So I'm Michael Rager. I'm your business guide. Thanks for watching this episode of Biz Talk with Michael Rager. Make sure you follow us on all the NowMedia TV networks. We'll see you guys soon.
This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Hey y'all, Fathead here with Fathead Spices. My goal is to give you Texas-made spices, rubs, and food products for all your events. Whether it's outdoor, indoor, or just hanging out at the deer lease, we got you covered. We're proud of our customer service. We want to help you make your food better. One thing's for sure, y'all. Life's short, spice it up.
En vivo desde Houston, la ciudad espacial. Esto es NowMedia Television.